Michael.
And welcome to Uplift Stitches. We are a married couple, and this channel is a place where usually we talk mostly about cross-stitch.
Yes, but today we're actually going to be talking a lot about gaming, and in particular, Gen Con.
That's right.
So if you're new to us, welcome. We hope we like what you see. If you like us enough to stay around, feel free to subscribe and check out some of our other videos. And if you're returning, this will be a little bit unusual for you because we're talking just about games today.
That's right.
So we're glad to have you here, and I hope you enjoy hearing a little bit about it, Gen Con, and our experiences there. Just a note, if you are not as interested about like what Gen Con is, if you already know, you can skip ahead.
Yeah, we kind of are going to structure this video by talking first about what is Gen Con, and then kind of about our
preparations for
it. And then we're going to be talking about our experience there this year in 2024.
And we'll hopefully impart a few notes if you're interested in attending something like this, some things to keep in mind as you're planning, because it is a big event and there's a lot that goes into planning for it.
Yeah.
So, I guess without further ado, we can dive into what Gen Con is about.
Yeah, so what is Gen Con?
Yes, what is Gen Con? Well, it is the largest gaming convention in North America. This last year, it was at 71,000 plus.
Yeah, it was actually sold out this year.
Sold out all 4 days.
Yeah.
So it is quite large, probably larger than, it's definitely larger than any events I've attended before. The only thing that comes close is maybe some football games and stuff I attended, but even then I think the attendance is lower. So it's very massive, and it takes up quite a bit of space in Indianapolis. But originally it's called Gen Con because it started in Lake Geneva. That's in Wisconsin, if you're not familiar. And it was very, very small. The very first one had 12 people. So it was.
And when was that? 1968?
Yeah. So it was very small. It grew, and it got eventually shifted to Milwaukee at some point in the 80s until about early 2000s. And it kind of stabilized at around 20,000 plus people. Before it really, and when it went to Indianapolis, it was when it really grew and became what it is today.
Yeah.
So it's held in Indianapolis Convention Center, which is it's also connected to the Lucas Oil Stadium where the Colts play, as well as the surrounding hotels nearby. It's really good set up. They have sky bridges from the hotels to the convention center. There's an underground tunnel from the stadium to the convention center. It really works well. One of the best conventions I've attended anyway. You want to talk a little bit about what it is? Actually?
Yeah, so Gen Con celebrates everything gaming. So board games, card games, trading card games, role-playing games, LARPing, and escape rooms.
And if you don't know what LARPing is, that's live action role-playing.
That's right. Basically anything from light party games to really complex, immersive gaming experiences.
Yes.
You can find there.
Yes, and it also has all the kind of auxiliary crafting stuff that's connected to those as well.
That's right. So miniatures, dice,
crafting like cosplay outfits, all that kind of stuff. So it's quite an exciting thing to be a part of.
A large part of the event is the exhibition hall, which has I think you said there were 540?
There were 540 vendors this time, which all different companies that produce all different wide ranges of products. There's artists and writers, as well as like individual crafters who craft stuff related to this hobby as well, who are also there.
Right. It's not just about the games and the gaming companies, but it's about kind of the gaming culture. So you can find things like dice and mats and gaming accessories.
Things for LARPing or walking, which is similar to LARPing. That has
as well as fun things like tea and mugs and shirts and
you know I got my tea, which we'll talk about later. So yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, and jewelry. Like there's a wide range of things that you'll find there.
It really is, and they have events that are not just gaming as well. It's involved.
That's right.
So things like there's actually a parade with like the people who are doing cosplay will parade and show off their outfits, and there's what are some of the other? They have a dance, I think.
Well, they have a lot of educational components as well. So there's a trade day for people who are in the industry or interested in being a part of the industry. There's also a writer symposium, so people who are doing fantasy or gaming related writing.
It teaches them about that. It teaches you about how to be a game master if you're into like RPGs.
Yeah, there's a lot of seminars on the history of gaming, as well as different topics in gaming like psychology and costume
creating
design,
characters, how to
world building,
how to interact with gaming groups.
Yeah.
And it's also very kid friendly. There's a kid zones that are designated for you to hang out, and there's also some other lounges. What is BIPOC?
Yeah, there's a Black Indigenous People of Color Lounge, which celebrates different people in the industry. And there's also a Gamer Lounge, which is founded and sustained by members of the queer community.
So it's got a wide range to appeal to pretty much everybody. Really, it's a great experience.
Yeah, there's also a lot of creative experiences.
Oh, yes.
So there's like a film festival that happens. There's also a lot of performances. So some like role playing groups that have podcasts or YouTube channels will come and do a special event,
and they'll interview people. You see people get interviewed, and there's a lot of famous people you might have a chance to meet, famous designers of games you love, or writers.
Yeah, there's also a lot of content creators who are there that you can interact with, who also sometimes have their own events set up.
Yeah, so what else?
There's also a lot of art.
There's a lot of art.
So there's a lot of creative events that take place. So you might want to, like, if you wanted to learn crochet, you could crochet a dice bag.
Yeah.
Or paint miniatures. I know you had done
the painting miniature. I learned to make stands for miniatures, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And there is as we mentioned, there's cosplay, and there's a cosplay contest on one of the days. I think that's on Saturday. Usually, and it was a lot of fun to see everybody all their decked out in their costumes. Some of them go really all out, and it's pretty impressive what some people can put together.
But a large focus of the event is gaming and playing games. So in addition to, there's a game library where you can find anything from older to newer games. There's a library that specifically just has games that have come out over the last year. And then there's also a playtest area where you can playtest games that are in development.
Prototypes, and help give them feedback and help them improve their games, which was a lot of fun. We did that last year. So,
and then there's also some open gaming places where you can bring your own games to play.
Yes, and there's some of the events are also geared around the charities they contribute to. Like there's a card building, tower building thing that everybody contributes to, and then that gets basically broken down by people throwing coins at it, which gets all the money gets kept for a charity.
Yep, there's also a blood drive and a lot of other things that are focused on charitable giving.
Yeah, and there's never a shortage of food. There's always great food. They have a lot of food trucks. It's really well set up for that, and we've never had any bad food there yet. So, so it's just a great event, a great gaming event, or even if you're just into auxiliary, related crafts, it's just a fun event. There's always a ton of energy. It feels like a city just nonstop until probably 10 or 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of, like you said, activity and excitement, and there's things to do from at all hours of the day.
Yeah. I mean, the gaming goes on beyond 10 or 11. That's when most of the official stuff gets shut down. There's always games going on, probably well into the early morning hours. I'm usually asleep by then, but so yeah, that's kind of what Gen Con is in a nutshell. I know that was kind of quickly, but it's such a big event, and there's just so much to it.
Yeah. So we hope that gives you an idea of what it is and our draw to it.
Yes.
Because we love games.
Yes, I've been thinking about it for a long time in my life, and just a few years ago, I said, you know what, let's just do it. This was after our fire, right? And we needed something really positive to look forward to. So I said, we should probably do this. And Mel was like, yeah, right.
Well, I said, I don't know what it is.
She doesn't know what it is. Once I explained it to her what it was, she was on board.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is. We'll talk a little bit about how to plan for one.
So we just wanted to mention kind of our steps in planning are when we go to the event, we actually start thinking about it in February. Yes. That is when the badges go on sale.
These badges, they can get mailed to you, or you can pick them there. But
if you live in the continental United States, you can get them mailed to you.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And so that February is when that takes place, and that's when we start thinking about it.
Yes.
And then also in February is when the housing lottery gets...
Right. So if you purchase your badge in that first couple of weeks, then you are automatically entered into the housing lottery.
Yes, they have a certain blocks of housing or hotels that are reserved every year for Gen Con.
Mm-hmm. And then they randomly generate a time for each person to go and try to sign up for a hotel. Sometimes you get a slot, and sometimes your slot is so late that you'll have to find housing on your own.
Yes, that happened. The last year we had a little more of a struggle than this year in the first year. So you can kind of get an idea of when your slot is and when you think it'll be sold out or not, essentially.
Yeah.
Getting stuff connected to the actual event is probably better. They do have some...
Well, we'll talk about this later, but that works better for us.
It works better for us. Some people may like to go further afield, but yeah.
Yeah. So after we've figured out the housing, then in May, they start selling tickets for certain events. So if you want to play a particular board game or go to a particular performance or try a particular craft, that's the time that you'll sign up in May to attend those events.
Yes, and they have a list of those on if you create an account, you can browse all the events that they have, and there's several thousand of events taking place of just board games. Now that doesn't include RPGs, which also there's several thousand of, and so they have it all kind of scheduled out of what times that people will be playing them, so that you can sign up for. And you get that actually opens up slightly before when you can purchase the tickets.
Right. Usually it's 2 weeks before you can start.
So that you have time to kind of browse if you're going to make a schedule. That gives you time to make your schedule ahead of time, because when you make the list in your account, it gets pulled that day, right?
As long as you've added it to your wish list.
As long as you've added it to your wish list, it'll get pulled in. So it doesn't guarantee you'll actually get it when you're finally make it through the queue, right? But it'll be easier than trying to make it the day of. So that happens in May.
Yep.
What else?
And then kind of in the 2 weeks that are leading up to the convention, I spend a lot of time watching different gaming YouTubers who talk about the games that they're most interested in, because there might be some new upcoming things that they'll be more aware of that us casual hobby people are not as aware of. So I do enjoy watching a lot of those videos about what people are interested in, excited for. That helps me to kind of think of and hear about some things that I might be interested in seeing. And also there's a Facebook group called Fans of Gen Con, which has been really helpful in finding out more information about what food trucks are going to be there, as well as some events that I might not have known about otherwise.
Yeah, kind of exclusive events that some of the companies might be putting on, or things that are exclusively offered. So.
And there's also a lot of people in the group who will kind of remind you, like, hey, badge time's coming up, prepare yourselves.
Yes. So,
which is great and helpful.
So it's great to have that kind of a community built up around it that you can easily find information for. So.
And it just helps me to really get ready those 2 weeks beforehand, so that when we show up, we're not kind of, we're just better prepared.
Yes. And so I know that everybody kind of probably has their own way of preparing for cons, and it might be different from what we do. But we're gonna go through some of the things we kind of like and prefer.
Yeah, over the last 3 years, we've kind of learned some things about the way that we prefer to do the convention.
We've definitely learned a few things over the years. So one of the things we definitely, I think we started the first time doing it this way, we liked it, was we leave a day early. And we come back a day late after everybody has already left.
Yeah, the actual convention goes from Thursday to Sunday, so we usually try to come into town Wednesday, and then we'll leave Monday morning.
Which works really well for us.
Yeah.
We kind of avoid some of the traffic leaving, especially if you don't leave on Sunday. Everybody's leaving on Sunday,
right?
Just about. So that it kind of makes it nicer for that. And then what else? Go ahead, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say also because it gives us a really good night's sleep before the convention starts on Thursday.
Oh, yes. You definitely need to get the sleep.
If we get into town a little bit earlier in the day on Wednesday, then we have time to kind of rest and relax and get settled in and have a good night's sleep before all the fun begins.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's going to be it's pretty much nonstop. So.
Yeah.
That's part of also the reason why our next kind of recommendation, for at least for us, was staying to a hotel connected to the convention center.
That's right. As Michael kind of hinted at earlier, one thing that we feel is important for us is to be able to stay in a hotel that's connected to the convention center. I have a mild heart condition, so walking long distances or being in a stressful environment can be really hard on me. So taking away those
the extra stress of trying to have to drive over to the convention.
Mhm.
Or I mean, most of the hotels are probably within walking distance. There are a few that are outliers though that might be
Mhm.
hard to get to.
Mhm.
So this makes it easier for her and for
It is more
us.
expensive, but to us, that cost is worth it because it means that we'll be able to do more and not have to worry about having problems.
Correct.
Mhm.
So there is that.
But there are a lot of people who stay further away successfully, and they love that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just really whatever your preference is but for us that really works well.
Right.
So, which
And sort of a related thing is that
Yeah.
we've found that doing the valet parking at the hotels then is also
was very worth it.
Mhm.
We had a potentially bad experience with
Yeah, this year we actually signed up to not do valet parking at our hotel through another company, and that company kind of folded the week before the convention, and it was just a hot mess of people trying to figure out.
where they were going to park. Another company was going to take over, but they couldn't guarantee like there would be 24-hour surveillance, and a lot of people had trouble with it.
Mhm.
We did make the decision just on the cusp of that and saying, okay, we're just going to do the valet, and it was definitely worth it because a
Mhm.
lot of people complained about that.
Yeah.
So something to keep in mind.
But you do want to make sure, no matter what way you're doing the convention, that you want to think about parking ahead of time.
Yes, do not think about it after you've already gotten there. It can be a little bit stressful. So,
Yeah.
One of the other things we've kind of discovered every year we kind of adjusted it is how much food and water to bring to your hotel.
Yeah, as we said, there are a lot of food trucks and restaurants right in that part of the city, and the food trucks that are brought in for the convention. But we tend to do kind of a mix of eating out as well as bringing food for ourselves.
Yeah, because when we schedule things, we don't always have a lot of time to go get the food. Is what we found on some days, and so those days we'll typically bring our own food. And then the days we have more time, we'll go and get a food from the food truck.
It's also another way of helping to keep the cost down a little bit.
It does. It helps with the cost as well.
Yeah, if we can bring and eat our own breakfast in the hotel, that saves us time and money.
especially the time that when we have early morning events. Trying to go get food in the morning and then go to the event might be stressful.
So over time, we've kind of adjusted how much we bring and especially how much water we bring. I think we finally figured out this year
about how much
the right amount of water to bring along. Because staying hydrated is important, and there are water refill stations around the convention center.
And one thing we discovered this time was that there's actually water refilling stations in the vendor hall where the games are played typically. Yeah. So that's something that will be helpful next year.
Yeah. Another thing to consider when you're preparing is how many and like how densely packed you want events to be.
Yes.
We kind of typically
have a mix.
Have most things scheduled ahead of time. We've met a lot of people at the convention who prefer to just kind of go with the flow. They'll show up and see if there's an empty spot at an event.
And there are events you can buy for general admission to a lot of events. Mm-hmm. So some people do that. They'll buy those and then they can just go see if there's a spot, use their ticket then. But we typically schedule a lot of it, but we do make sure we leave enough time to go browse the vendor hall, browse like the consignment store where people are
give ourselves time to eat.
Give ourselves time to eat. So we try not to have it jam-packed the entire day.
Right.
And you need a little downtime to kind of recover.
Yeah, we also kind of tend to not schedule anything kind of before 8 a.m. and nothing really after 10 p.m. That way we can get a good night's rest and rejuvenate ourselves for the next day.
Exactly.
So. But I know that's not something that everybody needs, but that is something that we need.
It's something we need. Some people are late night owls and function just fine on just a few hours sleep too. So there's also that.
Yeah.
But so I guess that covers most of the main plans we kind of figure out. So I guess we'll go ahead and move into what our experience was like
for this year.
For this year. Starting on Wednesday.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, our convention started Wednesday.
We left late because life this year. This year it was a little bit stressful right before.
It was very stressful. So we didn't end up packing or really getting ready until...
We packed the morning of, which is not unusual for us. We usually pack the night before we leave.
Yeah.
But just there was so much going on in our lives at the time. So we left later than we expected.
And we drive. We live near St. Louis, Missouri, and
it's about 5-ish hours.
Yeah, the maps say that it'll take about 5 hours. It took us a little bit longer.
There was a lot of
construction.
Yeah, there was a lot of construction especially this year in Illinois and in Indiana. So it just took us a little longer with the traffic.
Yeah, we ended up stopping about halfway for lunch.
Yep, had a good Mexican meal this time. We kind of alternate depending on where we end up stopping, but it was a nice drive.
Yeah,
it really wasn't a bad drive.
No.
So then we checked in, got our valet parking, which made things so much easier and got kind of settled in on the first day.
Yeah, this year we stayed at the Hyatt Regency.
The Hyatt Regency, which is a really nice one. We stayed there the first time, a year or two.
Yeah.
So,
they put us all the way up on the 20th floor.
We were on the very, very tip top floor this time, which was fine. It was quiet.
Yeah.
It's a nice hotel. So
yeah.
And we just got pizza from the hotel restaurant in the hotel because we didn't feel like going out anywhere.
Well, we had a big lunch, so
we'd had a big lunch. And we started the convention off with some games in the hotel room.
Yeah, we had brought one game with us, which is 5 Crowns. It's kind of a deck of cards game. So it's usually one of our travel games that we'll kind of throw in the bag.
Yeah. And
so we played around with that.
We did some cross-stitching that night, and we watched the Olympics because the Olympics was going on.
Yeah.
So.
And then we passed out.
Ready for the next day. I guess we kind of organized our tickets and stuff ahead of time.
Oh, we did. We kind of set up, so we got the tickets ready for Thursday and kind of went over our schedule just so we kind of be refreshed on what we had planned
had our
prior.
had our backpacks all ready to go. Each of us has our own backpack that we take with us. Yeah. So that was the first kind of prep day, so to speak.
The prep day. Then we got into Thursday,
which is the very first day of the convention.
That was our first day of the convention.
It's also typically one of the busiest of the convention.
Yes, because there are some games that are like released at Gen Con. They'll do the North America release of games.
I can tell you one of the craziest was last year when they were releasing Lorcana for the first time, and the line for that was absolutely crazy.
Yeah. They have what they call kind of the running of the nerds, where, there's this large group of people who are ready to go in the hall all at the same time. And it's kind of an exciting thing to see. I think we stood and watched it the first year. Because
yes, we did not get in the middle of that.
There's a lot of people. Yeah. And there's nothing that we really need that intensely.
Not really. I mean, I enjoyed seeing all the stuff, but I'm not going to be bent out if I don't get something specific in the first day of the vendor hall, typically.
Yeah.
But some people, that's very important to them. So it's a big mad rush the very first day, especially. Mm-hmm. But we had a good breakfast. We woke up, got rested, and we left early to go gaming.
Yeah. So our first event was actually 2 blocks north of the hotel we were staying at another hotel, the Hilton. And there we played Trekking Through History.
Which we'll insert some videos of some of the stuff we have here.
We don't have videos. We have pictures.
Or pictures. Well, whatever we have, we'll insert.
We didn't really take many videos.
We only took short videos of playing.
So Trekking Through History is a game designed by Charlie Bink and published by Underdog Games. It was, it came out in 2022. And it's a game that we've both been curious about for a while.
Yeah. We played a related game that your dad has, Trekking the Parks.
Trekking the National Parks.
And this one plays very different. Mm-hmm. But we've been curious about it, and
we actually liked it so much. Spoiler alert: we bought it later on.
Yes, and we got a good group to play with. It was really nice.
So it's a game in which you are a traveler traveling through time, and you're trying to collect certain
different events or the things you're interacting with throughout history, and you kind of start. Hopefully as old as you can because it has to stay chronological as you're building your trek. And
as you're collecting those things, you're also collecting tokens, which will cover things on your itinerary sheet.
Yes.
That you're trying to accomplish.
Trying to accomplish, which is how you get points, essentially.
Yeah, it's a great family game. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's easy to learn and pick up. So there's not a lot of math. There's a little bit, but not a ton of math. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I think we just played one round, didn't we? Mm-hmm. So,
and it ended up getting done a little bit early, so we did go over to the exhibition hall and wandered a couple of rows.
Wandered a few rows. We stopped, got some lunch after that.
Mm-hmm. We went to the food truck area and got some sandwiches.
Yep, and that was when we went to the next game, which was also a lot of fun.
Yeah,
called Tesseract.
Yeah. Tesseract is a game designed by James Firnhaber, published by Smirk Dagger Games, and it came out in 2023.
Yeah, and we ended up being paired up.
I think this was one that we both picked.
We were both picked. We were very curious about it. It's a very unique cooperative dice manipulation game, which was really unlike most of the things that we played.
Yeah, it's like this dice cube shows up, and you're working together to try to contain each type of dice. And you're working together as a team to accomplish that.
Correct. And each person you can do a number of things on your turn, and you're kind of talking to each other to try to figure out what is most opportune for everybody. Because you can't focus on yourself, or you're going to end up losing the game.
Yeah. We had a great time playing that game. The couple that we played with also had played a lot of cooperative games, so we think that kind of gave us an advantage to playing.
Yes, we actually played through it twice.
Yeah. The time that there was a group next to us that was also learning the game, and we played 2 games in the time that they played 1.
Yes, so it was a lot of fun. We had a great time with it. And spoiler, we also purchased it.
Yeah, we did.
And then after that, we ended up going to the consignment store, which is a place where you can sell your games. If you have old games you want to sell, a lot of people do that. We had thought about doing it this year, but
with leaving late, it just didn't
work because you have to be there by a certain time the day before.
Yeah, that's another thing that we didn't mention. There's a consignment store and also an auction that's happening throughout the weekend.
Yes, and so you can go to buy the games, but if you have games, you can sell them there, which we just didn't make the cutoff this year.
But we had a great time browsing the shop.
We did. We bought
There's so many games.
There's just a ton of games. They have all kinds of board games and card games. They actually have like role-playing tabletop books that you can buy there as well. I didn't need any of those this time. But...
And like older games and newer games, unopened games, and games that have been played 1,000 times.
Yes, and right next to where a lot of the games are, there's, like you said, there's the auction also going on where they're selling various things that you can bid on. So
we ended up coming home with 2 things from there?
2 things from there. One of them will...
so the first one that we ended up picking up is Number Drop, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the other one that we picked up was Trekking Through History, which we had played that morning. Someone was selling their unopened Kickstarter edition version of the game.
And we're like, well, we liked it enough. Let's get it.
Yeah. And it's great because the Kickstarter edition had a solo edition, which I have played since, and it's great.
Yeah. So definitely recommend checking out the consignment store if you're going to the event, because it's worth finding.
It can be a way to get games that are hard to get.
Yes.
Or also that maybe you missed out on that someone else
is selling because maybe they didn't like it, but you would. So. Definitely, that was a lot of fun going into there. And then we went to Stonespine Architects.
We went and played Stonespine Architects. It's a game designed by Jordy Adan and published by Thunderworks Games in 2024. This is a brand new game.
It's a brand new game.
I don't think it came out at Gen Con, but I think it came out earlier this year.
We didn't enjoy it quite as much as the other 2.
It's a game where you're creating a dungeon.
You're creating a dungeon, you have your entrance, and you're building your different levels of the dungeon.
And you have certain goals that you're trying to meet in order to gain points by putting things in your dungeon in certain locations.
Correct. And so you're building it down towards the bottom throughout the game. There's like a number of rounds.
We liked it, but we felt like we have games that have similar kind of things.
Yes. We kind of look at, when we're looking at games we play, do we have something similar? Do we like what we have that's more than what is similar than what we're playing? Because... everybody has only so much space in their closet for games.
And also, like, is this something that only we would play, or is this something that we would play with other people too?
Yeah, that's a very big question.
And we ultimately just felt like it wasn't...
We didn't think it would get played enough.
Yeah. It was a good game, and it was taught really well, the guy who explained it to us.
He did a really good job.
Yeah, we all had a great time playing it, but just felt like it wasn't...
We just passed on it because it wasn't a fit for our collection.
Yeah.
So... and after that, we had some really good food. We had some pierogies.
Yeah.
Which,
we look forward to the pierogi, Tarek.
I'm part Polish, or there's debate whether I'm Polish or Russian, but yeah, my mom's family has that trade. We used to have pierogies growing up, so I always look forward to having them here.
Yeah,
they're really good. I haven't had any bad food there, as I said.
Yeah.
After dinner, we played another game. What was it?
We learned Mezen.
Oh, Mezen, that's what it was.
Which is a tile game where you have kind of it's designed by Nikita Sorokin and published by Arcane Wonders in 2023. And it's a game where you kind of have a collection of tiles in front of you.
Yeah.
That are laid out. And then the game is a game where you're basically doing things in order to flip over tiles.
Yeah. To get points. Because the tiles have 2 different colors. One color on one side and one color on the other side. And you don't know what's on the other side until you flip it.
Right. And you're going to get points every turn. But you only know what you're getting points for...
over the next 2.
On the turn and the previous turn.
Whatever,
and that turn. Yeah. So it's tricky because you're trying to do things, but then those things that you're doing might not matter at all later on, and then you have all these things that are...
Yeah, and
it was a very puzzly kind of game.
And there's 2 major scoring points in the game. Laura. The first one's building towards scoring one color side of the color, and the very end one is scoring the opposite color.
So basically, you need to flip as many tiles as you can, and then flip them all back as many as you can.
Correct. So it was tricky. It was interesting. I think we had a good time with it. I mean,
We did have a good time. One of the people who was playing with us really had a hard time kind of grasping
yeah,
some of the concepts of the game, so that made it a little bit tricky. But I think we still had a good time playing.
yeah, it was a nice game. I don't think it was a good fit for our collection. Probably, I don't think we would play it that often. But
it's a good experience to try it. That's
Yeah.
kind of another thing that we really like about Gen Con is that it was a game that really drew us because of its like vividness.
the vividness and the way that the aesthetic appeal of it. Essentially.
Yeah, and it's a type of game that I've never really played before.
Yeah.
So I think it was one of my picks.
It was it was fun, just not
Yeah.
quite for our collection.
Yeah, but it was a good opportunity to try it out and play it with other people who like playing games.
Yeah, and by the time we got done with that, we were pretty tired.
Yeah.
That was a long day.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun, and so we just went back, did a little stitching and Olympic watching.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was a pretty much consistent pattern. We watched Olympics and we got back almost every night.
Yeah.
So that doesn't always happen, obviously, but it was fun this year.
Yeah. And that was the end of our Thursday?
That was the end of our Thursday. And then Friday, Friday was busy as well, I think, or less busy.
Friday was our least busy day. It's the day that we had the least amount of things scheduled.
That's right. It took a little bit because we planned an additional time to go look at the vendor hall.
Yeah.
So we had our usual breakfast. We actually played one of our new games.
Yes, we had played the Number Drop, which I had mentioned before.
Yep.
It's a game designed by Florian Sirieix and Benoit Turpin, and it's published by Alderac Entertainment Group in 2021.
And it's kind of, think of like paper Tetris, essentially.
Yes, it's basically Tetris.
It's basically Tetris.
With numbers.
But the only difference is you can't move it in different colors.
Right, you can't bring it down and then move it over.
It just has to come straight down. So that's the only difference, but it really is basically Tetris on paper.
With numbers.
So it's a lot of fun. We played it a number of times.
Yeah, so you roll dice and they'll give 4 numbers and a shape, and you have to put those numbers in that shape.
Anywhere that you can fit it.
In your column.
And then you're trying to complete rows, just like in Tetris.
But you're also trying to make sets of same numbers and runs of numbers.
And so,
which then you outline and get points for at the end of the game.
And then if you outline both the set and the run of the same number first, basically it's kind of like a zonk in a game. So there's a shape that has X's that don't really count towards anything.
Right.
The next person who rolls a wild, that other person will have to draw that shape on there. So there's a little bit of interaction, but it's not as much interaction as some games. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Really like the style of roll and write or flip and write games.
Yeah.
So it's a game that had been on my radar a little bit, and when I saw it was on sale in the consignment store for a cheap price, I said, let's try this.
Yeah, it slots in nicely with a lot of our get your mind going, warm up type games that we play in the mornings typically. So it's a lot of fun. So we played some of that before we ventured off into our exploration of the vendor hall.
Ready for adventure?
I'm ready for adventure.
Let's go.
Let's hit it. Very first game of the day, which was Gnome Hollow.
Yeah.
It was one of the bigger hyped games for this convention.
Yeah, I think everyone whose video I watched mentioned Gnome Hollow as one of their kind of top most excited for games.
And it was designed by Ammon Anderson and published by OP Games in of this year.
Yeah, it was released at Gen Con.
It was released, so it was super exciting to get the chance to play it, and they did a really nice job explaining overall. I think
they did an okay job.
Well, the person I was listening to did a good job. I listened to the guy but
at the next table.
At the next table over, but.
We only were able to play a few rounds of the game just because of the time.
Yeah.
They were really trying to get as many people as they could in to try the game to see what it was like. But basically it's a game where you're cute little gnomes and you're making little
garden paths or circles, essentially.
Filled with mushrooms. Of different colors, which you're trying to collect the different colors of mushrooms to turn in the market to get trinkets, which are worth points at the end of the game.
And you're also trying to collect different color flowers.
That's right.
As you're going.
So it's a fun, cute game.
There's a little interaction, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's friendly is what I mean by that. Like
Yeah.
you're not intentionally getting in each other's way necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's probably in that regards it's family friendly.
Yeah.
We
really enjoyed it.
We enjoyed it, and after a tiny little bit of debate, we decided to get it too. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But so that was a lot of fun. That was in the actual vendor hall.
Yeah.
It was just a kind of a quick demo, basically. A few rounds of play, basically. But it was good. We went down to get lunch after that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had some burgers from a food truck.
Had some burgers.
And then we spent some hours wandering the vendor hall or the exhibit hall.
The exhibit hall where all the different crafts and stuff. There's a lot to see. It took us quite a while.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot of people. So if that bothers you, might not be for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a lot of people everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but we really enjoyed it. We enjoy even though we're not into some aspects of gaming, it's still really cool to see some of the things that are there.
Yeah, like seeing all the costumes that they have hanging up for sale was really cool. Just seeing what some of those people have created, because a lot of it's created by hand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even I'm not really into miniatures or role playing games that use miniatures, but still, it's really cool to I appreciate the artwork and the skill that goes into that.
Yeah.
Even though it's not something that I would purchase, it's still really cool to see it in the hall there.
It is. Yeah. I always enjoy looking at that. I mean, I have more than enough dice, but I'm always looking at the dice because sometimes I feel like I can't have enough dice. I know.
Yeah. Another thing that we really enjoy about wandering the vendor hall is finding out about upcoming games as well as new games, but they also usually, some of the companies will have prototypes of games that will be coming out over the next year to kind of get you excited about it, kind of share information about those games. So we did watch a few demos and talk to some people about games that are coming out.
Games are going to be coming up, yeah. And I think you got even
some that I didn't even know about. That I'm way excited about.
Yes. So browsing the vendor hall is good for a lot of things, not just seeing what's there too.
It's also a place where you can meet some different game designers.
Yes.
Content creators. Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned in the last video, we met somebody we didn't even realize we met, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
So we went to the designer for Wingspan, so in case you didn't know. But
well, we didn't know either.
We didn't know that either at the time. We only realized after the fact, and we're like, "Oh, we should have said something." Oh well, it was fun.
Yeah.
So after wandering quite a while, we had.
Well, I think that's when we started purchasing some things.
We did start purchasing stuff
because we kind of made a note of where some things were that we knew that we wanted, and then we kind of hit those spots on the way back out of the vendor hall.
Yeah, that's when we got the Gnome Hollow.
Yeah, we ended up going back to get Gnome Hollow.
And Tesseract.
Hollow. Tesseract. We also got when we got Gnome Hollow, they said, "Here, have this," and gave us a free card game called Flip 7,
which we played. And
we played with our friends, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really easy press your luck
type game.
So we had a lot of fun with that. Also, there's a loose leaf tea company that we like.
Yes.
Called Tea and Absinthe. So Michael usually gets a couple pouches of tea every year.
And this is the one I was trying to get another pouch of, but it sold really quickly, so I got a little sample.
Yeah, what'd you get?
This one was Dragon's Gold, which this one looks really good. This is a me tea for sure. It's got apples and ginger cubes and turmeric, and so that one's definitely me. And I got a couple other ones called Queen of Hearts and Salt. The Salted Caramel you liked as well.
This one we picked out for both of us.
Yes, she liked that one. This one's a very fruity one as well, like hibiscus and raisins, elderberry. So these are definitely me teas. The other one I think is both of us tea. So that was one of the things we bought that day as well.
You also got, I think, those two things.
Oh yeah, I got the pin. I think I mentioned that in my last video, but this is I'm going to make into a needle minder. But I like the dragon, and then this was probably one of the things I was most excited about, which was kind of weird. I saw this in their preview. This is a little ornament. This is the Gen Con dragon. Geneva, and I thought Genevieve. Yeah, I think it was Genevieve. But I just had to have this cute little dragon with the lights on them, Christmas lights on them, and on her. So that was the thing I was most excited about.
And he knew about that because when they get there, they have stacks of these show books. Yeah. What would you call them?
Probably show books.
It's like a magazine, but it's got information about
Like a Gen Con guide.
Yes, a Gen Con guide. It's got information about like some upcoming games, where you can find them at the convention.
It's got a map of
as
vendor
well as
hall.
a map of the vendor hall and the surrounding places where games are played, and a lot of different information and ads and things about that are happening at the convention. So this was how Michael found out.
That's how I found out about the ornament. I'm like, I have to have that. So
yeah. And also, like, along the way, we kind of grabbed different promotional things for upcoming games. Like, we found out about Above and Below Haunted. Above and Below is a game that we like, and this sounds like it might be a fun game, so we're interested in learning more about that later. Also, Our Travels is a game that we have, and they've been teasing that an expansion is coming out, so I took this to help remind myself to keep an eye out for it when it does come out. So we grabbed some things like that. Also, sometimes they'll hand out promotional cards and flyers and that kind of thing.
So you'll never know what you're going to get handed.
Yeah.
Essentially. But
so we had a real fun time.
We had a good time with that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, wandering and oogling the things and
we I think we went to the vendor hall probably as much this time as any time because we went several times.
Yeah.
But
we do enjoy having at least one kind of longer chunk
that we can go and browse at our leisure and buy stuff. So it is something to keep in mind if you're planning on going to the vendor hall. Allow yourself enough time to enjoy it.
Even if it's broken up, if you'd rather do it that way, that's another way you can do it.
Yeah.
That we've done it in the past.
So, but after we got done with our wandering, we did play some more games scheduled.
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. We had a game called Pollen we played.
Yeah.
This one was not in the larger game area. This was in they have suites of rooms that you can go to. So this one was in that.
Yep. This is a game designed by Reiner Knizia and published by Allplay in 2023. And how would you describe this game? It's like a tile laying game?
It's like a tile laying game. You're laying down flowers essentially to attract pollinators essentially. So you're attracting
and then
bees.
It's an area majority. You're trying to have the most of a certain symbol in order to gain that pollinator.
Yes. So you're trying to have the majority of flower you're building. If you do, then you get whatever symbol goes in the center there. I think I ended up winning that mostly because a couple of other people misunderstood the rules. Yeah. And we're trying to spread out.
They thought you were trying to get a variety of things, but the person who explained the rules said you want the most of whoever has the most of one particular thing will win.
So I ended up winning because of that.
Yeah.
but it was an interesting game. Probably wasn't our cup of tea for something we play a lot.
It was a little bit cutthroat.
It was definitely cutthroat, which we don't tend to gravitate towards cutthroat games.
So. But it was, like I said before, it's a good experience to try it out there.
Yeah, that's really what I like. I like trying games out you may or may not like, and sometimes you surprise yourself to find out you really like it. So, but yeah, I mean, we had a good time with the couple. They were fun. It was a fun group of people, but just not our game. This is one of those cases where we didn't have a lot of time between that game and the next, so we just had a snacky supper. Yeah. And then we went to a game called Tzolk'in.
Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar.
And it was a lot of fun. It was designed by Simone Luciani and Danielle Tassini, published by Czech Games, 2012. So it's an older game. But it's someone we've been curious about the last couple of ones. We didn't actually get to it. And so we decided this year to sign up for it and see what it was like.
I love trying out games in the Czech Games Edition room. They do a really great job. All the people who teach games in there are educators. So they always do a really excellent job of teaching games.
Yeah, we've had great experiences with them. I highly recommend checking out.
I would sign up to play a game in there every year.
Last year, I think we did the giant Galaxy Trucker.
Yeah, and I had played a different game in there.
You did, yeah. You'd played something else, but so it's definitely a highly recommended place to go check out games.
Yeah.
But the Mayan calendar, back to Tzolk'in. How would you describe it?
It's like a worker placement game. And the focus and kind of tricky thing about the game is it's got this rotating gear system. So you're placing your pieces onto gears that are connected to the Mayan calendar. And then as the calendar rotates and the days change, your token is moving on the other gears.
And that changes what you can do with it.
Yes.
And so this one is a lot about planning ahead. If you don't plan ahead in this game, you're going to do poorly, which I found out towards the end of the game. I made some mistakes and just couldn't recover from it. But it was still a lot of fun playing the game. And there's there's definitely different strategies you can take in the game to win. I mean,
which is something that I think the person who was explaining the game did a good job of setting up.
Yeah.
He kind of set it up in a way so that each of us was kind of pursuing a different thing from the beginning.
Yes.
To kind of show...
To show off what you could pursue, basically.
Right. And to kind of help lead us, since we hadn't played the game before and didn't know enough about it to really form a strategy, to kind of help you, here's a strategy that you can kind of go toward.
Yeah. So he did a really good job, and it was a lot of fun playing it. Would you say that's something we would probably consider in the future? I don't think it was quite a fit for it.
I think so. It is on Board Game Arena, so I have thought about trying it on there sometime. Because one of the other people who was playing the game said that he had tried playing it on there and couldn't figure it out. So he signed up to try it at Gen Con so that he could actually learn the rules.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated game. So probably a little less.
It's definitely a heavier game.
It's a heavier game. A little bit crunchier, a lot of planning ahead. But it wasn't a bad game. I enjoyed it.
No, it was a good game. I'm really glad that we signed up to try it.
Yeah.
Because I know we had thought about it last year and then...
We did, but it was a lot of fun. We had a good person teaching, and the other people we played with were fun. So that was that game.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we got talked into making a little potion, which was
we were on our way out the door, and their new the game that they were releasing at Gen Con is called Little Alchemist. I had played Alchemist last year. That was the game that I learned. There was Alchemist, which is a deduction game.
I can't tell you. I didn't play it.
You're trying to figure out there are certain ingredients, and you're trying to figure out which ingredients make certain things. I think I only played it that one time. It was a really great game, but
that sounds good.
I didn't get it, and I didn't even consider getting it after I played it because I thought I love this game, but I don't think anyone else that I know would play this game with me.
I would probably play with you, but
I really enjoyed the experience of playing it last year. So this year they're coming out with Little Alchemist, which is kind of a kid-friendly
version,
lighter, easier version of the game. So they were really hyping it up. They had this thing set up in the corner with a little cauldron and a guy dressed up like a little wizard.
And he would let you choose ingredients to put in there to make a potion, and
I put a frog in.
Yeah, I don't know what the other person put in, but we both made...
We made a luck potion.
We made a luck potion. This is what you got. It's just a little promotional fun thing. It was fun.
It was kind of cute.
It was cute. But that was really on the way out. We were ready to go back to it.
We were tired.
We went back. We did some stitching. We watched the Olympics. Yeah. And we slept.
Yeah. Our busiest
Saturday was our biggest day. It was also the day where we found that we do enjoy, at least to a smaller extent, having some separate games.
Yeah, last year we tried doing more separate things.
Yeah.
And it worked, but I think you didn't like it as much.
I didn't like it because I felt... I did a lot of tabletop RPGs last year. I think I did 3 last year. And it was just a little bit much to try to learn all 3. Because all 3 were new last year to me as well. And I also like playing games with you, so there's that as well. So we didn't do quite as much separate stuff, but we did do...
But Saturday was the day that we...
Saturdays we had a couple separate things. In the morning, we ate and I went to play my first separate game called Hackmaster.
Which was in the stadium?
It was in the stadium. It was a really good experience. The previous year wasn't quite as good, at least on one of them, because it was very noisy where I played. But this one was really good. You
were actually in one of the little suites?
I was one of the little suites in the Lucas Oil stadiums where the more privileged people typically sit, and it was super quiet and it was really well taught. I enjoyed I played Hackmaster before. This was a new scenario. So
did you do it last year?
I did Hackmaster
the
year before, I think. It was the year before because I was the one I was in the tournament for. But it was a lot of fun. It was super quiet. I got to see some parts of the stadium that I wouldn't ordinarily get to see, so I took some pictures. But the game was a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed every year. I've enjoyed doing the RPGs. I kind of use it. From now going forward, I'm going to play a game I've played before, and then one I've never played because I enjoy learning new systems to see how they compare. And it's a good place to do that because you typically get it in with a group of people that they're really good players typically. What I mean by that is they play for a good experience rather than being kind of all about themselves. I've never had a bad experience at any of the Gen Cons I played at for this. So if you are into tabletop RPGs, this would be a good place to experiment with new systems. There's a lot more out there besides D&D. I like D&D, but there's a lot of systems out there that are a lot of fun. So I would recommend that. And really mention what the Hackmaster was like. I probably should mention if you said that. So the Hackmaster system, it's There's some similarities to D&D, of course, because you have spellcasters and you have your fighters, but it's a lot. Crunchy is probably the word that most people use. But if you're not familiar with that, but there's a lot of more details you kind of have to keep track of. So the combat system is a lot more brutal and potentially dangerous to people if you make bad decisions. Whereas D&D, you can get away with making mistakes in combat. And this one, if you make some big mistakes or do dumb things, you're going to pay for it. It's kind of the idea. It was a really fun story. I really enjoyed it. I was the fighter in the group and ended up killing most of the stuff. But it was a lot of fun. It was like a haunted story. So it was kind of, we were going to this village, trying to help this girl who was sick and trying to figure out how to help her. And we ended up going to this orphanage and discovering that the caretaker had basically been turning most of the children into like were rats, essentially. So we ended up helping the children release the souls of the children. It was a lot of fun figuring all that out because it was all mystery. We didn't know any of that going into it. And I said the spellcast system is a little bit more finicky too than D&D. If you play D&D, it's a lot greater chances for failure if you're casting than D&D. So, but it was fun. So just a little bit about the system itself. And while I was doing that, you went somewhere else.
Yeah, so I went and I learned and played Draft and Write Records, which is a game designed by Bruno Maciel and published by Inside Up Games. And it's a brand new game. I think it just came out. I don't know if that was at the convention or right before the convention. I don't know if they had a Kickstarter for it or not. But anyway, I really enjoyed the game. I loved it a lot. I loved it so much that we had another game that we had backed, and the backer kit came up for it, and it was by the same company. And they had it as an add-on, and I added it on. So it'll be coming sometime later this year.
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah.
I know you probably told me, but I didn't remember.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a draft and write game, which fits into the category of games that we really like. It kind of reminded me of Welcome To, which is a game that we like. But in this game, you are a record company, and you're trying to make the best band possible and to get them out and be popular and stuff. So you're kind of assembling a band. So you're gaining different band members, the lead singer and an instrumentalist and the crew and the sound mixers, all those kinds of people. And you're trying to get them to have harmonies with each other, which can help get you things, which gets you things, which gets you things, like in so many
chaining together.
Right. So many of those style of games. You have like a little agenda, so you're trying to cross off certain symbols, and then you have another thing you're trying to cross off certain symbols, and then you're trying to get points by making a great band.
Yeah, you seemed like you had a good time.
Yeah, it was great, and it's on Board Game Arena, so I played that a bunch this week.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. I enjoyed it. I think we had a fun time doing our separate things.
I did. That wasn't the only separate thing we did that day.
Well, but after that, then we met up for lunch.
We did.
Because the place where the food trucks is right between the convention hall and the
stadium.
Football stadium.
Yeah, it was the first year was somewhere else, but the construction forced it to move to where it is now, and I like it better now.
Yeah, so there's so much room to spread out and eat and have the lines and everything.
And we had some good tacos. That's where we had a tacos day. It was really good, and we explored the balloon sculpture.
Oh, that's right. Every year there's a balloon sculpture. And this year the balloons were celebrating Gnome Hollow.
Gnome Hollow. So there was giant gnomes along with a little like mushroom hut area that you could go inside and look around, and
they had it little decorated like the inside of a little gnome hut.
It was a lot of fun.
It was cute. We found out later that people actually got inside the balloon gnomes and like did a little dance in the hallway
and walked around the hallways. We did,
but it was still so cute.
It was cute. It was very cute. I wish I would have seen that because that would have been a lot of fun to see. Yeah. We enjoyed seeing the actual balloon sculpture because they start building the day, the first day
on Thursday.
It's not built, and so you can see it slowly taking shape, and you kind of get like, what exactly are they building? And then
because first it was a big brown blob, and we were like, what is the big brown blob doing?
Then we figured it out pretty quickly as they got a little further along. It was a lot of fun seeing that. Yeah. And we did have a little time to go wandering once again in the vendor hall. Was this the day we went to see the artist and the artwork and that?
I think maybe that's when we did that. Yeah. So when we had wandered the vendor hall, we just kind of focused on the booths that were
game related or game adjacent, really.
But they also have a whole area that's for artists who are involved in fantasy, but also who do artwork for games.
Yes.
And also some fantasy authors.
Some fantasy authors were there, and science fiction, horror authors, and it was Some of the artwork is really, really impressive.
It's just so impressive. I don't think we've never bought artwork there, but I know that that's a thing that a lot of people do when they go.
Yeah.
But it's just impressive to see.
Yeah, I really enjoyed browsing that area specifically at that time, and kind of.
So it's kind of nice doing that on a separate day at a separate time,
Yeah.
when we could just kind of focus on that and not think about the other things that we still wanted to see and do.
Yeah. So that was kind of all between our separate games, and then we had a few more separate games, and one more separate game after that. I went to play a game called The Stuff of Legend, which I've been curious about for a few years. I think it came out a couple years ago. It was it's by Kevin Wilson, and it's published by 3WS Games in 2023. So I've been kind of curious. I was curious about it last year when it went. So I decided to go ahead and sign up for it. It was interesting. It's a cooperative, so you're playing against the system. You're trying to find basically the way out, because you're trying to go the way out to go rescue. The basic premise is you're the stuffed animals of this kid. You're his toys, and you're trying to go rescue him because he's been kidnapped by this demon or whatever it happens to be. There's different villains you can face, and so you're moving together to try to get and figure out which one is the right place to go to rescue the boy, because there's a number of different exits you can get to. And so you're picking up clues as you're going, and one person isn't typical in those kinds of games can be a disloyal, somebody who's trying to keep you from getting the right one. And I didn't realize that at the time, but I'm not a huge fan of that kind of mechanic. So, but it was a fun experience. I had good people to play with. But I definitely, it's not something I would probably buy.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason that he decided to do it without me is because it's one that I had zero interest in.
She had no interest, so even if I really enjoyed it, she probably wouldn't have played it with me. So, but I just don't. It wasn't my kind of game. But I had a good time with it. But now I'm glad it's still there, not here. But while I was doing that, you went and played something else.
While he was doing that, I went and played Pick a Pen Reefs, which is a game by Rainer Knizia and published by Amigo in 2023. It's one of a series of Pick a Pen games, which are roll and write games where the colored pencils that you use are actually the dice. So they have things printed on them. So on someone's turn, they actually roll the pencils. And then the pencil that you pick, whichever symbol is facing up, is what you are drawing on your sheet. So in this particular one, you are like a scuba diver and you're trying to connect different treasures. And once you've reached a certain number of treasures, the game ends. It was a really light, fun, easy game. I would say it would be great for kids and families. It was a little bit lighter than what we typically like to play. We also have a game that's kind of similar, not the rolling mechanism, but the actual paper part of the game. We have a game called Trails of Tucana, which is a game where you're kind of drawing a map that you're connecting, and this felt so much like that, except with colors instead of
a normal pencil,
little lines.
Yeah,
but it was fun. It was a good experience. Actually, it was so fast that we played 2 games and then we still had time over. So I went and wandered the exhibit hall a little bit. There were some games that I had kind of heard about that other people were talking about before the convention that I had wanted to check out, but because with our chaos before leaving for the convention, I hadn't written any of them down, or I hadn't printed out my list. So I kind of remembered them.
Yeah.
So I went back to try to see where those games were and what they were about. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah. So my game took the entire time of its time slot, so I didn't get to do any of that stuff. But it was, like I said, I had a good experience. So. Yeah. But after that, we kind of came back together for events, and the rest of the time we were playing games together. So after that, let's see, what did we do? We had another game, Message from the Stars, which was a very interesting a lot of cooperative games this time, I think.
Yeah, it's another new game. It's designed by Clarence Simpson and published by Allplay. It came out in 2024. I don't know if Gen Con was its release or if it came out right before that.
But it's
like a party game.
It's a party game. There's some elements of it where, I don't know if you've played things like Mysterium or whatever, where one person
or Codenames,
where one person's trying to convey a message, except this time both people are trying to figure things out together, essentially.
Right. So one person or multiple people, depending on how many people are playing, are like the aliens, and the other group are the Earthlings, and you're trying to send messages to each other.
Yes, and you're trying to figure out, whoever's the alien has a series of letters that correspond with arithmetic formula, essentially. So, some numbers are actual, how many are in there. Some numbers are a multiplier, and some numbers will make things negative. Some of the letters will make things negative. And so depending what the word is they choose, the alien...
So the alien will write a word and then tell you like the number value of the word.
Correct.
Based on this math that they have behind their screen.
Correct. And each person will get a choice. There's 3 groupings of words that you get at the beginning. Each with the alien and the other people.
Right. So the words that you're using, you're trying to use words that will help them then to choose those words on the sheet.
Correct.
At the end of the game.
And so you're choosing words that are descriptive of those, but also you're also trying to figure out letter counts.
Right. So then I'm looking at the word taco, and it says that it's -2 points. So then I'm trying to think, well, one of these is the negative one.
Yes, one of these letters is the negative one, but which one is
And then
it?
are there 2 that are worth 1 point, or is there one with a 2 multiplier?
And so that's
so it's a deduction game where you're trying to so then the Earthlings are kind of crossing off letters and saying, well, it could be this or this or this, but we know it's not this.
Yeah.
Because then another word might come through that doesn't have a negative, and you're like, ooh, okay, well, none of these are the negative letter.
Yeah. So it's really very much a deductive game.
Mm-hmm.
With kind of elements of what are the other elements?
Like codenames, obscurio,
those kinds of things. So it's very tricky.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to be the alien. I've discovered. I was the second alien the second
time.
We
played it 2 times.
And it's very hard to be the alien.
Yeah.
Especially if we have words that don't quite fit well together.
Also, if the alien has incorrect math.
Which I did.
And leads us all astray. And then we had to like wipe our boards clean because
I made mistakes.
Suddenly nothing was right.
I made a couple mistakes and I never hear the end of it. No.
You'll hear the end of it.
But, it's a very tricky being the alien because you just getting the numbers figured exactly out based on your math can be tricky.
Mm-hmm. If you're in a gaming group where you like trickier games, but you need something a little bit lighter and funner to fit in your game night, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
It's a little lighter, but then some of the games where you're trying to do deduction, but just still enough to throw you for a loop.
Yeah.
So that was one. We didn't have much time between that and our next game.
No, we didn't.
So we also did our own dinner
mm-hmm.
instead of buying out.
Mm-hmm.
Because then we went to a game called The Art Project
mm-hmm.
after that. And it's a game by Florian Sirieix and Benoit. How did you pronounce that one?
Benoit
Turpin.
And it's published by the Op Games in 2023. This is a cooperative game where you are... What were we? We weren't the thieves.
We were... We were like a law enforcement agency, essentially.
That's right. So we're playing against thieves who are stealing different art pieces in a given place. I think each one has a different... There's different boards with locations that you can play. And we played the easiest intro game.
And it was very tricky.
It was a difficult gaming experience.
Yes.
I think the game itself is good if you like cooperative games.
It wasn't a bad game. It just the group we were with made it difficult.
There were some of the themes in the game that I didn't love. It was focused on the resources were gas guns and something else.
Gas guns and I think
walkie-talkies
because you're calling in help. And so you're manipulating, you're sending your different people in the group out to go fight some of the bad guys and then trying to recover the artwork.
But as you're recovering the artwork, the bad guys are getting
stronger. So you also had to get stronger. Right. And the game premise wasn't bad. It's just...
No. Our gameplay was bad. There's this thing in cooperative games where sometimes one person feels the need to take over and tell everyone else what to do.
And that's what happened this time.
That's exactly what happened.
And, well, it was a combination of that, and one of the people didn't listen to the rules at all.
And didn't understand the game.
And so she didn't understand the game.
She was upfront with us at the beginning that she goes to the convention for role-playing games.
Yep.
And we're not quite sure why she signed up for this game, non-role-playing game. But, I mean, I'm glad that she did. I'm glad that she branched out and tried something new. But it was really a difficult time trying to get her to understand the rules.
So between that and the person who really wanted to dictate all the decisions... It was a little bit of an awkward decision. It was really the only bad gameplay we had the entire convention.
It was. Because we were on a time crunch because our next event was going to start at the time.
Right at the same time that was supposed to get out.
And we were lucky the whole rest of the time that everything we played got finished early or with enough time that we could walk to our next event.
And in all honesty, this game, with a little bit easier to work with group, would have got done early.
Absolutely.
It was not a hard game.
Yeah.
So we were a little bit disappointed in the experience.
Yes.
But we got to the next event not too far after it was started.
Right.
and we had a
But
good
thankfully,
time.
that was like the worst experience of the whole convention.
Yeah, that was the only bad. That was the only bad experience. It wasn't a horrible, but it was just wasn't as good as the other experiences. Yeah. And but the next one we went to was called the Hot Game Room.
Yeah, so there's this thing called the Hot Games Room, which is a place where it's sponsored by Board Game Geek, which is an online place where you can find all kinds of information about board games.
Yeah, we could put a link to that if you're not familiar with it.
But it's sponsored by them, and they only have games that have come out over the last year. Or they sometimes have some prototypes of games that will be coming out over the next couple months. And it's a great place. It's in it's in the hotel that we stayed at, in the large ballroom. Yeah. And you can go and you can basically check out a game and play it. And turn it back in, and then check out another game and play it.
And they typically do it in 2-hour slots.
Right. So we signed up for a 2-hour slot. We got there a little bit late because of our previous game running over, but we still were able to try 3 different games.
We did. And we kind of learned in this one that we at least this
last year, we kind of took the tactic of trying smaller games so that we could fit more games in the time.
Yeah. And we were debating after this year, we had a good time with the games, but we're debating adding maybe 2 different slots of this.
So that we can try one longer game
and then some shorter ones in the other one.
Right.
Because there are some long games I wouldn't have mind trying.
Yeah.
We just didn't have time.
Right.
But we had played 3 games. What games did we play?
So the first game we played was Cascadia Rolling Rivers. This is a game designed by Randy Flynn and published by Alderock Entertainment Group, and it just came out in 2024.
And there's another
game.
We
love the game Cascadia.
Cascadia, which it's based on, basically.
Yeah, it's a tile laying game, and this is kind of the roll and write version of that game. So it's got a lot of the same theming and artwork, this is focused, so there's 2 different Cascadia rolling games. One is rivers and one is hills.
One is hills and one rivers.
Yeah, so one is focused on more this one in particular, I guess since we played this one and I know about it, is focused on certain river systems that are in the Cascade mountain ranges or Cascade area.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate.
So each sheet has a particular river with particular rules and ways of using the dice and stuff.
Correct.
So I don't remember which particular one we did.
I think we did the river one.
No, but each of those.
Yeah, I don't remember which one we did.
Yeah. So anyway, so you're rolling the dice and you're gaining animals.
You're gaining animals and you're filling in sections in your sheet, and that unlocks bonuses as you get more of them filled in. For me, I didn't like it as much as the full game. I thought some of the animals seemed like they were shortchanged. Mm-hmm. The way the dice were laid out, and that it seemed like I enjoyed the other version a little bit more. It doesn't play as quickly, the full version, but I thought it was a better balanced game.
I felt like it was too much math.
It was a lot of math.
I wanted it to be less math.
It's a very math heavy game because you're constantly figuring out points and trying to figure out, trying to get certain rows filled and certain paths
filled. Right,
because
basically you write down a number, and then when you use the animals, you cross off that number and write the number that you have left over.
Correct.
And then when you gain more, you cross it off and write the number that you're gaining. I'm not anti-math.
No, but it seemed really tedious.
Yes. So I'm so glad that we were able to try it out there because this is one that I've been very interested in trying since we love Cascadia so much.
Now, if you don't mind that, it might be a fun game. It was enjoyable, but it's definitely not my kind of game.
And the game did come with several maps, so there would be a lot of variety in playing.
And there's, like you said, there's 2 versions, the hills and the rivers. So.
And also there are some components that you leave out, like you shuffle randomly at the start of the game, so there would be a lot of
variety replay value.
Yeah.
But the other one was a little bit lighter. We played after that.
Yeah, the second game we played was Agueda, City of Umbrellas. This is based on a city in Portugal that's got umbrellas in the street.
Yes. And it was fun. It was designed by Dustin Dobson and Milan Zivkovic. I think I pronounced that correctly. It's published by 25th Century Games in 2024.
Yeah.
So... sorry, I wanted to make sure we do that before we forgot. So you were saying it's about...
Yeah, so it's a lighter family game. Kind of like... Well, there's a lot of games that are kind of like it. But there's a series of umbrellas on the board, and you're taking turns kind of gaining umbrellas to place in your own personal board to make kind of a layout, just like on the street that's in that city in Portugal. And then as you put certain ones, you're uncovering some artwork.
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot of murals in the city as well, so you're kind of uncovering a mural on your board, and then you're scoring points for certain things.
And the scoring rotates throughout the game as well. So you're building, if you build up one row, that row once will shift, and so it may not quite fit exactly what you're trying to score for. So there is that to also keep in mind. But it wasn't a very complicated game.
No, it was a fun game. I think it's nominated for the Spiel, whatever the family Spiel is.
Family Spiel, yeah, I heard that. So it was fun. We had a good time with that one. And the last one we didn't really get a fair chance of evaluating
because we were short on time.
But
we read the rules and played a couple rounds.
It's called Happy Home. It's designed by Matthew Dunstan and Brett J. Gilbert, published by Alley Cat Games in 2024, of course. How would you describe it?
It's like a polyomino game where you're trying to furnish a house.
Yes, you're furnishing each of the rooms of your house, and there's certain conditions you're trying to complete to get points, essentially. And so there's this little conveyor belt that you move around on, and you're grabbing some of the furniture as you land on different spots, putting that into your house. So there's different types of furniture. There's like rugs, and there's flowers, plants that you can grab. And each room can only have certain types of things. That, like, it has to have stuff appropriate for that room in it. You can't mix those.
And they're small, so you have to kind of plan where things are going. And the shapes are kind of funky on the ones that will give you more points, but then you got to try to fit other stuff in.
And once you place something, it's placed. You don't get to move it. So you really have to think about where you want to put stuff. Like I said, we didn't really get a good chance to evaluate because we were hurrying, trying to get it in because we wanted to get another game in. Yeah. But it could be potentially a lot of fun. I don't think we got a fair chance to really evaluate it. But that was the 3 games we played, and then we were pretty tired because that was pretty late.
Thankfully, it was in our hotel, so we just took the elevator up and passed out.
Passed out after a tiny bit of stitching. So that was our Saturday. It was a lot of fun. Kind of jam-packed with a lot of stuff. Yeah. And then Sunday is the final day of the convention. So it's a little lighter because the convention ends earlier. But we kind of got ready, and we went to our first game called River of Gold.
This is a game that's set in the Five Rings universe, which I think is a big...
It's a pretty big franchise.
Yeah.
The Legend of Five Rings.
Yeah.
There's like a collectible card game based on it, and there's a board game based on it, and I think there's also some tabletop role-playing game worlds you can get on. So it's pretty big.
It's kind of set in that world.
Yeah.
But it's designed by Keith Piggott and published by Asmodee in 2024. It's brand new.
Brand new.
I think it was just released at the convention.
It was just released at the
convention. Or were
convention.
they selling like pre-release copies?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
It was sold out. It was sold out.
It was brand new. It was sold out. We were going to try to get it.
We were going to try to get it. It was sold out.
Because we liked it.
We did like it.
It's a worker placement game.
It was a worker placement where you're going to move along this. You have 2 boats that you're moving along this river, and you're building up the sides of the river to different shops and things you can build. And it's, I don't know, how would you describe each round? Like, you're moving down.
You have a dice. So what you do is dependent on the region that you rolled.
Yeah, so you can build in the region where you roll. That's right.
Or you can move the number that's on the dice.
Yeah.
And then you activate whatever is in that region of the lake or the river where you've landed.
And you can only move one direction on the river.
Yeah.
Once you get to the end, you actually start over at the very beginning. You can't go and then decide you're going to turn back up the river to go to somewhere else. You have to keep going that same direction. So you have 2 ships. You kind of have to juggle which ship is where and which is the most advantageous.
Because there's also things where I might want to go here to get this, but if I do, it's going to give this other person 2 points.
Yes, because as you build things, you're the owner of that building. And so when somebody else uses it, you get a benefit. It reminded me, I don't know if we've talked about the game before, is Big Bitoku, which is Bitoku, which has a similar mechanic where you have tracks that you advance your pawns on as well. As you get, how did you describe it?
No, because
there's those different tracks you advance your little token on.
Oh, like up for the side part.
For the side part of it.
Yeah.
So you're building things, and some of those will let you advance on these different tracks to get you points or different bonuses as you're moving. And those also come into play at the end because whoever's the furthest gets the most points, and whoever's the second most gets so many points. So that's one of the ways you're getting points as well.
But the different regions have different points. You can kind of think like, well, this if I go further ahead in this region, I'm going to get way more points than if I were to try to do it in this region.
Yes. And then there's also a set of 3 goals you're trying to complete throughout the game. And the first person to complete each one of them gets more points, and the second person gets fewer, and the third person gets minimal. So there's points that way. There's points on those boards, and there was another way you got points too.
The people.
Oh, the people. That's right. The different people you're recruiting from.
As you're gaining resources, you can use those resources to
fulfill orders essentially for those people, basically patrons. And so I think I ended up winning that game.
Yeah, you totally won that game.
I had just enough balance between the different types of getting points, but we both didn't really enjoy that. I think, as she said, we were going to try to buy it. It was sold out.
Yeah.
But we will try. I'm sure we'll get it at some point. Unless we forget it. I don't think we'll forget about it. But I liked it. It was a really, really well designed board. It was
it's fancy,
very fancy looking. It's very good artwork. Was really pretty. So definitely worth purchasing if you like that kind of game. After that, we did some more wandering in the exhibit hall.
Yeah, we went and we learned about some more games that we kind of had on our radar that we were interested in. Because we enjoy trekking history so much, we went and tried Trekking the World, which is another game in that series that they're going to be coming out with another version of later this year.
And there was another one we demoed there too.
We learned about the cheese game.
The cheese game. The cheese game. There's one we actually sat down and
played. The Forges of Ravenshire.
The Forges of Ravenshire, that's what it was.
Yeah. That was one we had tried to get into an event for, but weren't able to with our time. So they were doing where you could play like
a round or two just to see what it's like, basically. It was interesting. I'm glad I played it because I discovered I probably wasn't my kind of game.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to try it, Yeah. I like the cheese game a lot. That one was...
That's interesting.
I think that will be fun to try out, an actual
It's
game.
on Board Game Arena.
Oh. I may actually play that with you.
But we did get to learn then some more, like kind of the last things on our list that we hadn't. We're like, where now? I wanted to see that. Where was that at?
Where was that at? Yeah, it was a good time to go that because it wasn't as big a crowd either on Sunday. So but after that we had another game. One more game we had. That was it, wasn't it? One more game.
No, there's 2 more.
Oh yeah, there was 2 more. Okay, so after that we went to Mission Control Critical Orbit, which was very chaotic. It's a very chaotic cooperative.
It's a game designed by Corey Andalora and Donnie Coleman, published by 3WS Games in 2023.
Yeah, and so...
It's a cooperative game.
It's a cooperative game, and the basic setup is like Apollo 13, if you've seen that movie.
One of the players is stranded in space.
They're an astronaut stranded in space, and you have...
Having an oxygen problem.
They're having an oxygen problem. So the other people are all mission controls and trying to...
Various mission controls around the world.
And they're trying to help you connect things to get oxygen, essentially.
Yeah. So basically, one person is playing...
They have their own mini games.
Sudoku.
Yeah, Sudoku...
And then I was kind of doing a Tetris thing where I was trying to make different shapes and then send those shapes to you.
And the other person was doing like a number crunching thing where you're trying to fill in numbers to add to a certain number, basically. And I was getting the shapes that she was giving me.
Right.
And some of them were also trying to get me like valves that had to go on some of the shapes in order to connect different things.
Right.
And so I was trying to...
The Sudoku person, when they finishes theirs, they give you valves.
Yes, and so behind the scenes, they can't actually see what I'm doing.
And then the other person, what were they giving you? The cards.
They were giving me the cards,
which let you shift where things are.
He was able to unlock where the different connectors can go, so I can shift those down then to make the path easier to connect the lines. Because I have to connect a certain number of oxygens to be saved, essentially. And it was tricky. I did it was the astronaut. It was very tricky to try to get things fitting together and also letting you know which valves I needed. And those were also hard to get because you typically either drew randomly out of a bag if you did one set of Sudoku, or the other Sudoku she could go and choose. So but that one was harder to do. So, because I would roll, was it 2 or 3 dice? 3 dice?
3 dice.
And you would choose 2.
And we used 2 of those numbers on our turn.
On your turn. So it was tricky. I enjoyed it, but it was definitely very tricky. I had flashbacks to an older game called Space Cadets. Oh, if you've not played it.
It's an experience.
It's an experience, because everybody has their own...
It's another game where everybody's doing like a mini game.
Yes, only in that one, if you have fewer players, everybody's doing multiple mini games.
Yes.
That game was not winnable. I don't recommend it just because you can really win.
No.
But this one was winnable. It was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I don't think we ended up deciding to buy it, but
No, I think we felt like we have enough cooperative games that we enjoy more than that,
Yeah.
that we probably wouldn't play it enough to make it worthwhile.
correct. But it was fun. It was a good experience. And
Stressful, but
stressful, but good. And then after that game, we wandered one last time through the exhibit hall.
We did.
Kind of sadly because it was coming to an end. But we took a little more time just to browse a few, to make sure we didn't miss anything we wanted to see. And before we played our last game called, this was like an early, it's like a prototype.
It's a prototype.
It's a prototype we got to play called Citizen of the Spark. I think this was your pick, so I'll let you talk a little about it.
Yeah, this is a game designed by Philip DeBerry, published by Thunderworks Games, and it's coming to Kickstarter, I think, in October, but it'll come out in 2025 sometime. It's a card game.
Yeah, it's
a card drafting game.
Card drafting game.
Where it's like a society of animals, and each animal
they have a different role.
Has a different role in the society, and you're trying to.
You're building sets of those different types of animals,
yeah,
and each of their own animals has its own unique ability.
Right. So when you gain a card, you're putting it in your community.
Your tableau, basically.
And then you can choose to activate one of them, one of their abilities.
And then everybody at the table who has that also gets to activate it.
Right. It was a cutthroat game.
It's a very cutthroat game.
But it was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
And I'll say that because I won.
I did not win.
I didn't think I was winning, and then somehow I won.
I did not do so well in that game.
Yeah.
But I had a good time.
Yeah.
It's probably not my kind of game typically.
Yes.
But I still had fun.
Yes. We know some people who love cutthroat games, and we think this is going to be right up their alley, so we might back it as a gift for them.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And
it comes with a whole variety of animals, so you only play with, I think, 10 each game.
And you can swap in and out.
Right, because there are like 30 maybe.
And these were most of these were the more friendly animals that we played with this time.
Yes,
there are a lot more cutthroat games.
Yeah, the guy who was teaching the game is one of the people involved in the production of the game, so he was kind of trying to get feedback. We filled out a survey at the end when we were finished playing, just to kind of
what we liked, what we didn't like.
Yeah, and he told us that this was like the easiest, least combative setting that he had it.
But the artwork was pretty. It was really well done. It was a well designed game. I mean, I had a good time playing with the people I played with, but I probably wouldn't choose.
It's not a game for us.
It's not my kind of game.
But it was a fun game.
So yeah.
Then I wrote down, we walked sadly back to our hotel room.
It is the sad part of the convention where the convention is over and you go back to your hotel. But we did have games to play. We played some
because,
games.
like he said earlier, we do stay and leave the following day.
So it allowed us to kind of decompress. Play some of the new games we got in the hotel.
Yeah, we pulled out Trekking Through History and played 2 rounds of that.
I decided to go on an adventure to get us some food.
We were going to get the pizza from the hotel, but it was Sunday and it was closed.
So I walked down a couple blocks down the street to get us some pizza from a little place called Sauce on the Side, which is like
It's a calzone place.
It's a calzone place for college students because the university's right down the street too. So I walked down and got some of that, which were really good. I enjoyed the calzones. Bonus points if you remember who loved calzones from.
We just finished watching Parks and Rec.
So, but it was good. We played some of the number drop game that night. Watched the Olympics again.
I cried.
I stitched, and we went to sleep and had a good night's sleep before continuing on the next day, which is our travel day.
Yeah.
So we kind of packed up, headed out on the road.
We did kind of do some packing up
the night before. But it was a lot, like I said, because we left a day after most of the people were leaving, the traffic really wasn't that bad.
Right.
It actually took probably closer to 5 hours than 6 the previous day.
Yeah.
And we have a new stop that we started the previous year, and this year we stopped again. It's a, what is it? What's it called?
The Blue Springs Cafe.
Blue Springs Cafe.
In Highland, Illinois.
Which is famous for its Mile High pies.
Yeah. They're okay.
The first time was better than the second time. I think we got the stuff that was sitting out a little longer this time.
Yeah. I grew up not too far from a place that has really good pies. And the first time these pies were closer to that experience.
Second time,
and this
not
time
as
they
much.
were not as much. So we'll try it again next year. If it's not good again, I think we'll
try new stuff.
Find a new
But
stuff.
if it is good, then we'll be back. Because I had like a chocolate pie, which was really good. Not quite as good as the previous year, but. So that's our stop on the way home. And then we got home and played.
We had to, do boring things like grocery
laundry, play some of our new games.
Opened up our new games and
So that was kind of the end of our 2024 Gen Con adventure. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully you got at least a small glimpse of what it was like to go to a Gen Con.
We had a wonderful time.
And we're hoping to go back next year.
Yeah.
That's the
Hopefully things will work out and we'll be able to go next year.
I think they will. So we're hoping. And and if you're at the Gen Con next year because you are excited like we were and decide to go next year, well, hopefully we might be able to see you there. If not, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad we decided a few years to start going, and I'm hoping to keep continuing.
Yeah, it's always a highlight for us because we love games, and it's just so exciting to be around 70,000 people who love games as much as we do.
I will say we got a little bit lucky the first time because it was right after they reopened for the pandemic, and the crowd was a little smaller, so it made it easier for us to get used to it. So if you've not been to a large convention, it's intimidating. I can understand, but it was really a great experience. So this was just our kind of extra about the Gen Con. I know we've kind of hinted at, and some people were definitely interested in hearing a little more about it.
Yeah, we hope this is helpful to you. If Gen Con is something that you've been thinking about trying but have hesitated going to, we hope this helps you.
Yeah.
We also hope that you enjoyed hearing about the things that we enjoy doing.
And if any of you have actually attended Gen Con and wanted to tell us about your experience.
If you were there, tell us what your favorite thing was.
Yeah, because we're always looking for new things to see or new ways of approaching the experience because we learned something from every time we've gone. So and I guess that's probably all we really have to share. Yeah. But if you enjoyed hearing about it, thank you. I'm glad you stayed this long. If you're new, please do subscribe if you enjoyed our channel.
As we said, usually we're a channel that's mostly about cross-stitch, so if that's something that's interesting to you.
But we do have a board game segment
Stick
if you're
around.
interested.
We do have a little board game segment at the end of each of our videos where we talk about what we've played over the last month.
So, otherwise, I guess we'll let you guys go into our next actual official video, which will be sometime at the beginning of September.
Yeah.
So
we hope that you have the best month you can. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.
And we hope you enjoy doing the things you love with the people you love.
Yeah.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Love you.
Love you.
Bye. Bye.